Mighty attorney for the new Black Panthers, Malik Zulu Shabazz. Mr. Malik, if you could say one thing to black youth and the hip-hop nation, what would you say concerning Jamestown?
I would say that real rappers and those that spit lyrics should be dealing with the plight of our people and dealing with such controversial subjects. My advice to the rappers is don't just play on the playing field at the A&Rs from the 6 major record labels, which are really Zionist controlled. Don't play on that playing field, dear brothers. Play on the playing field that God has erected for you in terms of addressing the comprehensive things that our people have been into and are into. Yes, of course, talk about the streets and talk about what's happening in the projects and what's happening in the hood. Keep it real, but also keep it real and know that your ancestors were brought through Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, and that black people have suffered greatly in this country and have labored for white people. 310 years of chattel slavery, and that we have suffered a lot in this country. Drop some lyrics on that. Drop some science on that. Black youth, know your history. Know who you are. Study the history of slavery, but understand that you're much more than a slave, that before you were brought into America as a slave, that you were a builder of civilization and you were doing just fine in Africa. So there's a lot that black youth need to know. If you're going to keep it real, I say keep it realer. If you say you bold and you cold, well, I would like you to listen to this interview and adopt some of the things that we'll be talking about so you can be bolder and colder.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Apologies from various states for slavery have came in, such as Virginia and North Carolina. Should we accept an apology for slavery?
I would say no and yes. No on an apology if that's all that it is, because that would be to play ourselves cheap. As an attorney, we deal with compensation. We don't care anything about apologies. When I'm representing clients that are suing corporations or municipalities, I got to keep it real. We go for blood.
Yes, sir.
We go for results. We go for tangible assets, money, land, and property. And so as an attorney who seeks justice, not just for my clients, but also for my people, I can tell my people to accept nothing less.
Yes, sir.
Let's pause for a minute so brother can come in. Yes. I can really advise, if I'm an attorney for the black nation and my people as I am, I cannot advise my client or my people to accept nothing less than complete justice. So no, not just an apology. We're sorry for working a whole group and race of people for hundreds of years and building wealth for white America and being dehumanized in a categorical list that stretches volumes of books. Yes to an apology if the apology is entered as an admission as part of a larger case that will bring compensation. Yes, an apology as an admission that we have enslaved your people. We acknowledge that we have enslaved them. We acknowledge the complicity of the government and corporations of this state. And that admission is used as a principal piece of evidence to bring about a settlement with that state or with these corporations in terms of justice.
Yes,
And yes, I'm always interested as an attorney in admissions and factual things, factual pieces of or evidence or factual admissions of wrongdoing in the course of litigation that can ultimately bring about what we really want. What do we want? We want justice.
Yes.
What is justice? Justice is land. Justice is property. Justice is precious metals. Justice in some cases is cash and financial compensation. And so if one man, can be shot by the police and justly receive sometimes $5 million settlement for what happened to him and his family and the loss of income, well, what about a race of people who lost so many fathers, who lost so many mothers, who lost so many income earners? How much income has been lost by victims of slavery and the effects of racism, which up to very recently or today have taken the lives of so many.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the amount is so high that we need to immediately, which is frightening the whites, but we have to immediately sit down and start talking about how many states and how much, what portion of the federal budget will be immediately turned over to us, and how many states will be turned over to the Indian. Really, they have to give the whole thing up. If we really want justice, it all has to be turned over to us.
That's a good point to move
Yes.
to. Point number 10 of the new Black Panther Party talks about, it follows up on the original party's 10-point program, and it talks about a plebiscite vote to determine our divine destiny. Could you expound a little bit upon that for our listeners?
Yes. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and indeed the original Black Panther Party platform, called for a separate territory for blacks, and calls in our 10-point program for a plebiscite or a vote amongst the black nation to determine our destiny as a people. We have a lot of work to do, because in order to really take an accurate vote amongst our people about what we really should do as a nation, we, in the political context, talk about voter registration, must be preceded by voter education. And so we have to educate our people as a nation about who we are and what we really deserve or what we want to do. Because I have to be honest, black man, if we go out here right now and take a poll amongst the average black people about what is needed and what is justice and some particulars of some of this good earth of America that is due to us that we should call our own, we will get some answers that we may not like because of the mental and emotional and factual limitations of our people who really don't know what's going on.
Yes, sir.
So yes, I'm interested in a vote, but I'm more so interested in education right now. I say we have to wage a war, as the Bible says, that the battle is for the minds and hearts of our people. And we have to continue to go to work to raise issues like we have here at Jamestown, to raise the consciousness of our people, so that when we take a vote, the people will raise a black power fist and say, yes, we determine that whatever we determine, it will be in the strongest interest of our people and not our enemy, and not a vote that will say, yes, we want to continue to be the white man's nigger for another X amount of years and accept some peanuts and crumbs. We got a lot of work to do.
And following up on that question, could you comment on the importance of black media and having black reporters as a type of education to get the information out to our people?
We're sitting here going on the internet to look at the reports from our activities. And we have to read it from the Guardian newspaper in England, the Toronto Sun, where I'm headed to Toronto, God willing, shortly. We have to hear it from the white press, our story told. And if we get a reasonably fair story, that's about all we can get. But my question today is when we, I, as the president of Black Lawyers for Justice, we in the new Black Panther Party, our family in the American Indian Movement, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, and our brothers and sisters from Virginia, when we took on what nobody was willing to take on, to challenge Jamestown. And now it's part of the historical record that we are the Africans or the black people that organized and went in there. This was a great story for Jet. Jet should have been there to film us organizing in that parking lot and running our caravan and dealing with the police and going in there with the strong message, even though we were faced with park police and brown shirts and riot police and how strong it was. Ebony should have been there. Jet should have been there. TV One and National Newspaper and Publishers Association, Final Call newspaper and others should have been there, but they weren't. And black media must do better, and they must step outside of the box and think outside of the box. You know, I'm really not gonna play games here with that. I'm dissatisfied. Why is it only that the white media can cover us? Fox News, I can get on Fox News, most of the time, or other white media publications. This is going out tonight. Where is the black media? Where are our friends in the media that really want to deal with black people that still are interested in struggle? We must have a change in that area.
Now, I got one more question for you, Reverend Malik.
Ask what you please.
Okay. Well, actually, I want to include Brother Akbar, Brother Bilal Akbar, and Brother Hashim Nzinga, because I believe the Panther Party is a collective, and I've read and studied some of your work, so I want to be able to include them and ask them if they have any comments at this time.
Okay. Well, let me do this then. Let me say this, and then I'll just yield the floor to them.
Yes, sir.
But I do want to pick up on your point. The Panther Party is a collective. And Malik Shabazz is not, for the record, whoever would read this interview and see this interview, Malik Shabazz is not trying to build himself into some kind of icon or have totalitarian leadership over the new Black Panther Party. I am sincerely interested in building a cadre of leadership. And God is working with me in a certain way where he has me on a particular assignment. I'm going to be working more to free political prisoners as I'm working to free Malachi York. I'm going to be working more in the courtrooms and other legal battles. And so the future will see the men you're about to see in a moment. Our National Chief of Staff, Minister Hashim Nzinga, who's evolving now and growing into a qualified leader amongst our people. Imam Akbar Bilal, my good friend and comrade. Others who you saw today, Divine Allah, and others you didn't even hear from. If the enemy thinks that by stopping me or thwarting me, he's getting rid of the message of the new Black Panther Party, he's sadly mistaken. Because there are other tigers out there that they may not have the stature that I have, but they are biting harder than I am. And so there are warriors here, female and male. And I'm interested. I would like to build 100 leaders out of the Panther Party. I would like to see you, Brother Shabazz,
yes, sir,
become a great leader of our people. Because no longer, I mean, I respect the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, I respect all of those who have come before us. But no longer should we rely on a single individual to get us free. I believe we should build a cadre of collective leadership. God gonna give me what he giving me, but I want to share it with others so that the enemy will never be able to wipe or stop one man. We're like Bebe's kids. We don't die, and we'll continue to multiply. So I'll be happy to yield the floor now to the great cadre of leadership that we're building in the Central Committee of the new Black Panther Party. Thank you, and Black Power.
Black Power. Thank you for your comments, brother. And we're here with the Chief of Staff, Hashim Nzinga, of the new Black Panther Party. Dr. Khalid Muhammad, in your view, how is the new Black Panther Party carrying on his legacy?
We carry on his legacy by evidence today. If Dr. Khalid Muhammad was here in the physical, he would have been in Jamestown, Virginia today. And his spirit makes us as his children now growing up. As Marcus say, the cubs in the bushes have grown up. And this day here remind me of when we was in New York. Me and Attorney Shabazz was standing with pistols on us in a church in New York, and Dr. Khalid Muhammad was under an extreme amount of pressure. And people were threatening his life. And he went into this church when they thought that he might get weak.
Oh, man.
I gotta say this.
You want to shut that?
I'm so sorry, man, around you, man. You won't believe this story. Divine Allah's gonna love this. You gotta do that question over again. You not believe.
So yes, my brother, as I was saying, as me and Attorney Shabazz was standing post at a packed house. Dr. Khalid did a lecture saying you can't kill the revolution. And he just spoke on the words of the Honorable Messiah Marcus Garvey, and what he basically said, which means a lot to me and Attorney Shabazz now, that there's cubs in the bushes. And so he made his spiritual transition in 2001, Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, then the National Minister of Justice. We didn't know which way to go. I saw it in his eyes and he saw it in mine. We both knew we had to continue the work and the legacy of Dr. Khalid Muhammad, that his spirit can live. So him not being here today in physical form, spiritually, he led attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz to Jamestown. And I'm just glad to be living in this time because I really truly get to live history. Because I watched attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. I met him in 1994 at Howard University. And I watched him develop, and I watched him be trained and molded by Dr. Khalid Muhammad. And I watched so many of his actions that are like Dr. Khalid Muhammad, but then I now begin to see his growth and his attorney skills mixed with the revolutionary part. And so now the Black Lawyers for Justice come out. And since I am somewhat of a historian, I studied the NAACP. The NAACP sometimes don't get the credit it deserves. Because for the times, the early 1900s, when it came in, many NAACP members were bombed, Medgar Evers assassinated. Klan just tortured the NAACP. I mean, they had the NAACP could have had them so afraid, even though people assume and look at it as a weak organization, they really, truly set the foundation. But when the NAACP started the Legal Defense Fund under the leadership of Charles Hampton, and Charles Hampton brought in the great Thurgood Marshall, and now I see the NAACP not only protesting, but now taking the Klan and different people in the court, taking their land, punishing their companies for the wrongdoing of black people. And then you start getting separate but equal cases and the cases of Brown versus the Board of Education, when they started to take them to court. So now I see the new Black Panther Party having another branch of Black Lawyers for Justice with the courageous leadership of attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. Now young black lawyers, educated lawyers will begin to see our move, because in the state of Georgia, where I'm from, they just cut the budget of appointed lawyers, state-appointed lawyers. That hurts us because we know 87% of the people in the courtrooms are black poor people. So now some of these black lawyers gonna have to do what the NAACP did and do what attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz did, which he almost 90% of the time don't get paid for the cases because poor people call it the new Black Panther Party. But if we can get the Black Lawyers for Justice organization out like it should be, and we can get each lawyer to spend a week on a case, and lawyers from Chicago, and lawyers from San Francisco, and lawyers from Atlanta, and all the lawyers pool together under this banner and share their times, we can start fighting this beast. And he will stop abusing our people in the street, because court-appointed lawyers go to sleep in court.
Yes, sir.
They have no files to fight with. They don't go do no research. They turn our people over to always the compromising and getting 5, 10, 20 years, when if they had a real attorney, they would go home with their mothers and fathers. So I see the Black Panther Party growing in that way. And in the spirit of Dr. Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Khalid Muhammad was very educated and very, his hindsight was tomorrow, fighting for tomorrow. And I see now us making his spirit happy, because we hadn't lost getting in the streets, getting down, but now we got an intellectual value, and people gonna have to recognize it.
Yes, sir. One of the questions is the coalition between the American Indian Movement and the new Black Panther Party. Give me your comments on that. And how, first of all, how long has this coalition lasted?
Well, today we had Sister Warrior Woman there with us. But if you go back to the Million Youth March in Harlem in 1998, she was on the stage. Dr. Khalid and her has traveled to Africa. She was telling us a story about Libya and the different travels, and so we've been among our indigenous brothers and sisters ever since I met Dr. Khalid. And Malik, a great student now, a great leader, he understands the brown man, the red man, and the unity that's needed right now for us to fight our enemy. Because one thing we learned, or we should have learned from Iraq, is the first time Bush went, he had almost every nation with him. And he went in 2 weeks, he was out of there. This time he went, he couldn't get Canada to go, which is connected to America. He couldn't get Mexico to go, which is connected to America. He couldn't get Saudi Arabia to let him use their land to set his tanks and set his planes. So he went with Israel, he went with England, and he went with himself and a couple of people who we don't even know about, and he's still there, and it's a disaster. So we learn from his mistakes that we have to unify. Because the day we unify with Libya, the day we unify with Brazil, the day we unify with the Bahamas and Jamaica, and the day we unify with Nigeria and Ghana, and the day we unify with Mexico, and the indigenous people of the land, the white man would have to bow down and basically put his head on the chopping block and ask for mercy. Because we are the majority.
Yes,
and the
sir.
New Black Panther Party is beginning to bring forces together that's never been together before in a very united way. Because one thing Dr. Khaled did, Dr. Khaled was a freedom fighter for the masses of the black, the brown, and the red, and he was always a unifier about people. He always reached out and grabbed. I remember when we shot in Riverside, if you go back and study the papers, he had an indigenous person to his right. He had a Blood, he had a Crip, he had an FOI, he had me from what we call Maya, African-minded nationalist. He always surrounded himself with the best of everything. He didn't narrow himself. And so Attorney Shabazz is following those steps, and today was evident of that.
Yes,
and
sir.
we shook up Jamestown, Virginia. They had 30,000 there, but they were worried more about that 70 that was on the other side
Yes,
of
sir.
the visitor center.
Thank you very much
All
for your
right.
comments, brother.
Black Power.
Black Power. Brother Imam Akbar Bilal, you were a part of the original Black Panther Party, correct? Or you were involved with the original Black Panther Party?
No, sir.
Okay. Imam Akbar, question I have for you is, how does the new Black Panther Party bridge the so-called generation gap between the old and the young? And what would be your comments in reference to that?
Yes, that bridge is to be severed together by a black unity, and that's the key. The black family has been disjointed at essential units, and those connections have to be brought together by strong black leadership. That leadership is being provided through just a fine line of divine, but in direct connection to the new Black Panther Party, from Aaron Michaels to David Foreman to the days of the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and one of his brilliant students, the Honorable Chairman Malik Zulu Shabazz, and he is Doctor and Esquire and our attorney at war. And he has brought the youth to a new vision and been able to connect those things of the past to chart a course for the future for the new Black Panther Party, as well as Black America. And we're now beginning to connect to places such as Gambia and West Africa, join up with some more Panthers that are located in London, England.
Yes, sir.
So we're very happy about the progress in connecting the youth and then reaching out internationally to
What
the
would you
broader
say-
community.
What would you say to the black church in reference to Jamestown and the new Black Panther Party, its mission?
Yes, the black church has been on a branch of misguidance, and even in some cases in disbelief of the accomplishments of the black people. We have been given less than strong confidence, and the Panther restores the confidence to show it can be done, not only just from the works of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or the accomplishments of Huey P. Newton, but just from the idea and concept that the Panther, they don't track the Panther like they track a lion. And the Panther is not trainable, and they say is not tameable, uncoachable, but yet he's frequently winning victory over the enemy. And the enemies of black people and the enemies of the righteous are one and the same. The enemies of the Muslim and the enemies of the black community are twins, born under the same star. You find if you dig back and really investigate, the same war practitioners of today, not just Prescott Bush alone, but those the originators, the constructors of those slave ships. You have to look back and dig up the architects of those slave ships, and you'll find that that bloodline from none of the divine, not of the divine, but those warmongers are the same bloodline of the warmongers that originally colonized Africa, went in for mineral resources as well as human resources. But then again, the prize on the table of today, they want to track down the uranium in Africa. When they say don't let the sun set on the British Empire, we look at how they went into the Sudan, how they've gone into Nigeria, even how they colonized in India, colonizing in China, so it just freed itself from British rule. This is something we should research. And once we get the facts, we should deal with those facts. And then when you find a Bush, as we've said today, there's no difference in a George Wallace, you see, that would stand at the steps of the University of Alabama and tell you no blacks allowed. And then in comparison, you'll find parallel George W. Bush today standing on the steps of Michigan University and saying basically no blacks allowed, no affirmative action, no quotas, no piece of the pie, no slice of the pie for black America. Black man, woman, and child are left in destitute following a political system and a social structure that is not inclusive of the black family. And I think black youth and the black adults and the black ancestors should be all upset about the history of this white supremacy nation.
Yeah, Dr. Khalid had mentioned, I was watching one of his videos, Stop the Execution, Start the Revolution. And in 1999, he was talking about the rise in white racist groups, Aryan Brotherhood, Ku Klux Klan, and all these different various factions. As a black man living in America, as a black man part of the new Black Panthers, what would you have to tell black people in America and America as a whole as in reference to those comments?
In fact, there's absolutely no doubt about it. The white militia is alive and well in America. They have the Pony Express riders, these folks that are riding throughout, watching the borders of America, that to see that the tan man or the brown man, the Spanish, they call them brown berets in Texas, but those who have teamed up with us, those are in the favor of the righteous. Those people who run the white militia are the same one operating in the U.S. government as well as in corporate America, and they control the press. The white man and the white man Zionist Jew, we call a cracker Jew, has teamed up with a white racist cracker, but all placing obstacles in the path of black progress and black unity. And then there'll be some knuckleheaded Negro will stumble in from somewhere. A black homogenized Negro will come up and say the white man is right for practicing police brutality on black people. And for what? Shooting even the grandmothers of black. When we held our press conference, we live in Washington, D.C., and they murdered, an off-duty policeman murdered a black man, an unarmed black man, shot him down in cold blood over some tools. We held a press conference right at the chief of police office, and we told them, well, black people, if you allow this to happen today, it's only a matter of time that they'll move in on your women and your children.
Yes,
and then in a few days, they attacked a young boy, about 14 years old, in Florida, and beat him to death on camera. Cold-blooded, calculated murder.
Last question, brother. Is there room for women and other groups, other races in the new Black Panther Party?
Yes, in fact, we heard from the sisters today in prayer, both before going on our journey today to Jamestown, and we heard from Warrior Woman as a leader and as teamed up with the new Black Panther Party for self-defense. And we are the people that are inclusive of women. In fact, we believe more in women's rights than even the U.S. government. And we practice equality. We know equality, freedom, justice. But we cannot have equality without full and complete equality, full and complete freedom, and full and complete liberation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. I want to give you love.
Big love.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. May Subhanahu Allah bless, reward you and your family.
Black power to you,
Black power to you, beloved. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.